No wonder how they
We have music.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
no wonder how they always make it right. Wonder how they some change, but the way you show
Ooh, sorry, guys.
the sky. So
I'm gonna turn off the music because that was sounding pretty crazy. We're still working out those kinks. But welcome everybody. We'll get started in just a minute.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Um, good day. My name is Alexandra. I am your webinar moderator. I have the pleasure of introducing none other than Mark Garrett, CAIO. You are in the AI powered operations leader webinar. And as far as we're concerned, please feel free to be as engaged and participatory as you feel most comfortable. That means you can come off mute. You can enter questions or comments in the chat. Mark is very responsive, very excited to work with you. And Mark, we're very happy to be here with you today. If there's any technical issues, please don't hesitate to let me or Mark know. And Mark, I got you. I'll be with you throughout the session. So you holler at me when you're ready. And
Okay, okay.
thank you so much. Take it away.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're in session two. So we'll go ahead and share my screen. Let me pull this back over here to get started. And again, this isn't going to be death by slides. We've got, I think, a grand total of 14 slides today, but we're going to have two breakout sessions today. So I think that's going to be pretty exciting. And I just wanted to introduce a concept before I share the slides. We're all ready to go. But one of the things that has been showing up lately is the notion, and I'm being asked, what tech stacks are you using? And I'm continuously on presentations where people are, well, what program are you using? This, that, next thing. And so here's what I'm doing from a workflow perspective. And it really is to help operationalize the work that I'm doing. So I'm still in ChatGPT. So just pro account. I'm using that as a thought partner. I'm using that to help me at a big strategic level. I was actively using Gemini inside of my workspace, Google Workspace environment. And as many of you know, very heavily involved in using on a daily basis Notebook LM, also within the Google Workspace. Didn't do anything in Grok, didn't do anything in any kind of fancy automation type stuff. 3 weeks ago, when noise shifted to Signal around OpenClaw, started looking into that and decided to wait personally on that one. I think probably I'm about another week away, and then I'll start looking at that. But I introduced Claude into the mix. And so now what I'm finding, the way I explain it to people is ChatGPT is my strategic partner, my advisor, my mentor, and I've got it set up that way. Claude is now acting, specifically Claude Chat, is acting as my technical coach, my technical advisor, my engineer. So I get ideas and concepts for strategy and such in ChatGPT, and then I take that over to Claude Chat. And then when I need to research deeper into a topic, I'm going over to Perplexity and doing that, and I'm using that tool. Now, how do I prompt this? I use ChatGPT to create me a prompt to help me with that. So I'm no longer, and I haven't probably for about 2 months now, freestyle prompting in any of the platforms I'm using. In fact, the infographic that we're going to see today, I didn't type the prompt to create it. I went back and took the output of Perplexity. I went in and gave it to ChatGPT and said, hey, here's the information. I would like to create a prompt for an infographic that explains this. Please do that for me. And so it's very controlled and intentional around the prompt development from that perspective. So, each week I'll be sharing some of these things along the way. I'm just dabbling into Claude Cowork. And for those of you who are excited that Claude Cowork is out on Windows now, I have both a Windows machine and a Mac Mini sitting on my desk, and I'm doing Claude Cowork on both platforms. And my personal experience is that the Windows version of Claude Cowork isn't functioning as well. I think it's not as mature, and that's kind of a relative statement in today's world of AI transformation. So just wanted to start that off and share with you um, kind of some feedback that I'm getting and kind of some use cases from that perspective. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and share. Hey, Alex, there looks like there's 7 people in the waiting room.
I got the ones that are the people we have to leave note takers out.
Yes, okay, perfect. Fantastic. All right. Okay, so Alex, can you confirm? Do you see my screen?
It is loading
Loading. Okay. And
and it
as
is
Alex had mentioned,
loaded. All good.
sweet. As Alex had noted, please, we're going to use Adam and Chris's 1 for yes, 0 for no in the chat, unless you want to provide additional information or feedback or ask any questions. If you want to interrupt, come off mute. I love an interactive dialogue. It really helps to make these sessions a little bit more dimensional. And as I mentioned, we're going to break out into breakout sessions. So, so what we want to do today is we really want to go from strategy. Chief AI Officer is a lot about strategy, and now we're starting to get into the tactical. Even in the Chief AI Officer training cohort that we're going through, for those of you who are in it, or those of you who have already Chief AI Officers but haven't gone through the second round of it, there's a lot more focus now on execution and operationalizing AI, and that's really kind of the overall objective of what we're going to talk about today. So when we're out there and when we're talking to people, what we're seeing is AI strategy as theater. What do I mean by that? Everyone's doing demos. Everyone is showing, hey, look what I can do with fill in the blank AI model. And so they're kind of doing all that stuff. But the challenge is in doing so, the participants and the audience that we're speaking to isn't seeing the link between A plus B. And the reason why I alluded to in my opening about what I'm doing in terms of the technology is, well, that's all great, Mark, but how is that actually landing? How are you using that in terms of technology? So, just curious, how many of you are still doing lots of demos when you're meeting with clients? If you're still doing demos, and that's totally cool, I'm going to show you a different way we can look at doing that. Just drop me a 1. If you're not doing any demos or whatever, that's cool. Just drop me a 0. But if you're doing demos still, drop a 1 in chat just so we can kind of see what people's experiences are. The next thing is prompt engineering. Prompt engineering was so last year. It's so 2005, as crazy as that sounds. And so prompt engineering is not about getting the results that we need today. It's about utilizing the tool, but it's not putting workflows into place. It's not custom GPTs. It's not agents and automated workflows and things like that. So when people are out there talking, we're talking to prospects and clients. Um, Prompt engineering is now a default. It's like addition and subtraction. If you are doing anything in AI, that's just a default skill. And it really does not mean that we're operationalizing the use of AI. So how do we do that? How do we go through and pull that prompt engineering skill and put it into something that's actually helpful? So this is where we would go through and we would break down a workflow and say, you open up your email, you do this, you take this prompt that's already been developed, and then you run that prompt, and then you take the output, and then you do something else with it. That's where we take prompt engineering and we begin to operationalize it. Okay. Um, Vision decks, slide decks. The biggest challenge that everyone's facing right now is in the conversation of ROI. Being able to identify ROI and in the traditional fashion is incredibly difficult. And slide decks aren't doing it. What we need to do is we need to be able to provide exact activities and outcomes so that we can demonstrate. One of the benchmarks I'm starting to see right now is gross revenue, net revenue, and EBITDA, all three of those numbers per employee. So what do I mean by that? So if a company is $300 million dollars and they've got 1,000 employees, that's $300,000 of revenue per employee. Doesn't matter what the scale is. That's just a, kind of a number. If we look at companies like Midjourney, Cursor, those kind of companies, they're pushing $16 million of revenue per employee. So what that's indicating is that you can drive more value through AI-enabled employees, and that's one of the metrics. But there's a couple other things in there. So what we need to do is we need to understand, how do we identify the financial return or the risk return for investments into AI upskilling, AI process adoptions, and so on. And in the last bottom right corner is no workflow change equals no impact. This is for the last year and a half, almost 2 years. When we do not see, or when there is leadership and the company is not committed to modifying or completely reworking workflows, doesn't matter how much AI you put into this, it doesn't matter. And if you remember from last week, we had that pretty pie chart that basically says 10, 20, 70. 10% of the outcome is the model itself. 20% is the underlying technology. 70% is the human. And the human is the workflow, the job or the task or the economic value, as Chris calls it. That's what needs to change. And so if we don't change how somebody does their job fundamentally, I don't care how much AI you throw at it, it just is not going to see any return. So that's where we need to focus. So let's look at this. Why are all leaders stalling? And again, my thesis last week was that AI leadership is the biggest bottleneck in AI implementation. 2 days ago, what day is Wednesday? So Monday, had a conversation with a group of 35 people, and they're all, same with you guys. I'm asking them chat, to ones and zeros in chat. In this case here, it was, what are the tools that you've landed on, and what are you debating on? And most everybody was still talking about they're debating on ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, and that's what's occupying their AI decision meetings. Um, and the analogy that I keep on saying to people, and it lands, so please use your version of it. But if you've been walking to work, or you've been walking somewhere for the last decade, and you jump on a bus, you're going to get there faster, right? Okay. If you buy a Honda Civic and You go from walking to taking a bus to driving a Honda Civic. That is awesome. Those are fundamental growth steps. Now, if you're on a bus and you're deciding and debating, should I buy a Honda or should I buy a Ferrari? That's the wrong conversation to be having. Yeah. You need to be understanding that application of AI when it comes to workflows, it doesn't matter if we're using Copilot, we're using um, um, Claude, OpenAI stuff. It doesn't matter because yesterday you weren't using anything. So it's going to be that much better. Yes, there's benchmarks. Yes, there's incremental growth, but we need to stop chasing those tools and really actually focus on the workflow. The strategy theater, this one here I think is absolutely hilarious because what we're seeing is people in leadership are still talking in 3 and 5 year time horizons. Um, we need to be talking in 6 month time horizons. Take, for example, in November, agentic AI was a concept. Fast forward to February 14th and 15th, and it is no longer a kind of obscure concept. The age of personal AI agents is upon us now, and all the other stuff that goes along with it, including all the strategy and security and everything that Steve's presentation last week covered off. Um, so we need to be looking at much shorter timelines, and we don't know what we don't know is coming in the next 6 months. So trying to look at that as a roadmap has absolutely kind of a flawed mentality. We need to be figuring out what are we doing in the next 6 months that is going to change workflows, that is going to pilot and prototype methodology and adoption. And that's the issue. So we need to take it from these really amazing, big, huge, bold ideas, and let's strip all that stuff away and let's focus on one thing, just one thing, and let's move that forward. And so when we work with our clients, when we work with our teams, what is that one thing that we're going to focus in on? So case in point, we're working with a client down in Australia. They they went to a webinar that I presented at, and they were really excited about um, agentic AI. They were really excited about AI automation and all those things. And they wanted to kind of boil the ocean. They wanted to apply AI in all of these different areas. And so that presentation was in September. They attended another presentation in November, at which time I specifically called out a similar discussion to this. Let's focus on one thing. Um, End of November, the presentation, first week of December, we have a meeting. Australia's got a really weird holiday schedule. We really didn't come back to meeting until the middle of January, and I'm meeting with them on Friday to have a discussion around implementing one project. And it's really small. It's going to touch every person in the company for a half an hour at the end of every shift. And we feel that we can save 15 minutes per person per day. They've got 100 people approximately, 50 hours a day that we think we can save. It is one project. It's one simple thing. And that's going to be their foray in. They don't care what agent or what frontier model we're using. They don't care about any of that stuff. They simply want to solve this friction point. Okay. Now, what we had, the number three, the biggest thing that we had to overcome is this dealing with the technical people on the team and trying to figure out what tools and what we're looking at. And again, this is that issue. Well, underlying, well, Mark, what model are you going to use? Are you going to use OpenAI's API? Are you going to use what are the Chinese models and all that kind of stuff? Number one, no, we're not going to use Chinese models. Number two, it doesn't matter what we're going to use because it's the best tool that's going to get the best results. And 3 months from now, we might need to change the API call and speak to a different model. Other than that, that's all that matters. Now, what stalled the project also, and it's also stalled 4 other projects, is the conversation of governance. people are saying, I want you to create me an agent, a bot, a this, a that, some automation, or I want you to train my people up on this thing, Copilot or Claude or ChatGPT or whatever I want you to do. And we're like, absolutely, we can do that for you. And we need to discuss governance. And nobody's prepared to have that conversation. And we need to make sure that from at a fundamental level, we know what tools we're using. We know what tools, what data is allowed to go in, who's allowed to use what, and they need to have. Perfect. Okay, cool. Thanks, Michael, for letting us know. And so with that, we just need to be able to understand the direction of what's allowed, not allowed to be used. And nobody's having those conversations. So if you haven't built your own custom GPT, please use the one that's inside ChiefAIOfficer. Alex, I believe that there's a custom GPT that we have that we could put on this on the recording after we're done for uh, the policy, creating a use case policy, or sorry, an AI use policy. So that will make sure you're having every one of the people that you're talking to go through that. How do we Yeah, Ivan, Alex is going to get that. Maybe we can put it in the chat, hopefully. If not, it'll definitely
Yeah,
be on the recording.
I'm gonna go seek it. I have to just find it. It's the CIO custom GPT for making the use
Yeah,
policy. Give me
yeah.
one moment.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks. Great question. And then the other part of it is this notion of vertical focus. So we're talking to a company, well, yeah, we're talking to a company, it's not public yet, where they've got 250 people in one office and they've got 17 satellite offices, and they're trying to solve for everybody. And what we said is we need to focus on the biggest challenge or friction point that you're dealing with. And so that's exactly what we did. And we focused, and it turned out to be the internal legal department is having the biggest friction point. Okay, cool. Now, the next conversation is, well, what are we going to use? Are we going to create our own, um, um, oh, what am I trying to say? Are we going to, are we going to create our own RAG? Are we going to do all that kind of stuff? And in simplest terms, no, we're not going to do any of that stuff. All we're going to do is look at how does Microsoft Copilot and SharePoint collaborate together so they can start to find some savings. Then we're going to prove concept, and then we're going to move deeper into that vertical within the company, and we're going to prove concept there. And then we're going to move a third layer down. And once those are done, then we're going to step back up and say, okay, now what department needs this? Finance, HR, accounting, operations, wherever that is. And so where we stall is everyone's trying to boil the ocean. Everyone's trying to chase a tool with no governance and go back and forth, and they're trying to put it all in place. So this is why a lot of these projects fail. So my coaching and my encouragement for you is to look at this, grab a screenshot of it, or watch the recording and take this and now say, how am I solving each one of these steps? How in my practice, what am I doing to stop each one of these or help remove the barrier and obstacle to forward movement? Okay. Um, so the what we want to do is we want to go from a consultant, an advisor, if you will, of information, a tool recommender, a transformational auditory person. We want to move from workshops and we want to move into operational workflows. So what I want to encourage you to now begin to start looking at is you are a portfolio architect. Okay. Change it whatever you want. This is AI giving me some, fluffy language, but the key point here is I want you, instead of talking about tools, I want you to talk about workflows. And we're going to do that exercise. We're going to go through that today. I want you to look at how do we define what measurable value is. So that example I was talking about, measurable value is 100 people saving 15 minutes every day. It's 50 hours a day. That is 250 hours a week at an average of $20 per hour. right? So what's that math? 250 times 20. Sorry, hold on. Calculator coming to me. 250 times 20. That's $5,000 a week in savings. That's $20,000 a month, right? That's $200,000 a year in savings because we're saving 15 minutes per employee per day. Okay. How do we design that? And then the other part of it then is how do we actually monitor that? That's the other part of it is designing that into the workflow. How did are we actually capturing that? Okay. And then the new identity builds sequenced AI portfolios inside verticals. So as I mentioned, it's a staggered approach. Start simple, start easy, walk through the value creation process. And so as I mentioned in one of the flows, we don't care what the underlying tech is. Okay. We're basically agnostic about it. What we care about is the outcome. What are we doing with this outcome? And that really is the key component. And then we need to be focusing on holding our clients, the people we work with, into operational execution. We want to hold them accountable for that. So it's our role to drive that. Now, Chris talks about a story, and I've had similar experiences, as have pretty much everyone I know that's been in this space. Is we come in, we think we know everything, and we're just going to tell them how to do it. What we need to do in there is we need to help them to focus on what does that look like and get them to their buy-in, right? So if you, and as it says right here, the shift isn't optional. If you remain a consultant recommender type person in the ecosystem, you're going to fall into the same trap as everybody else out there. Okay. The portfolio architect mindset is really the one that delivers the operational change. You've got to roll up your sleeves. You've got to get a little dirty. You got to hold people accountable and sometimes have those difficult conversations that people aren't willing to have and get consensus and drive that through so that people can begin to make certain decisions. Talking to the executive vice president of IT and business growth for a Fortune 500 household company name, that sounds fancy and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we had to narrow the focus right down to one measurable goal. Otherwise, we weren't going to get anywhere. Somebody I've been talking to for 2 years, they are still in pilot purgatory because nobody is having the difficult conversation that says, stop what you're doing. It's nuts. Let's focus on one problem. Let's try and resolve it. Okay. That's where momentum begins to kick in. So I don't know what happened here when I put this out. We're changing over all of our portfolios, and I think there was a connection or something that's missed to one of our paid image generating tools. But anyway, let's look at operational AI in action. So where can we actually look at process changes? So within manufacturing, predictive maintenance and part ordering. That's a huge, huge area. And there's a ton of research studies. Just go up and if that's your space, you're in the manufacturing sector, go out and go into ChatGPT, ask it to create a prompt that sources reliable information. It doesn't focus on negative Nancy people or influencers or clickbait. It only source real, credible resources and ask them to find examples and use cases that describe how this is being done. In healthcare for medical records, I've seen this up to, 200% improvement in processing speeds, um, but 85% processing speed. So what does that mean? What does that mean in practicality? It means, so my doctor for 4 years has been dictating into a microphone onto his laptop. That's great. But now let's apply AI on that and have it analyze the data as it's coming through, as it's coming out of his mouth, to then go, oh, hold on, you forgot to mention this, or what was his blood pressure? Oh, right, yeah, his blood pressure was this. So it prevents errors, it prevents misinformation. My wife works at an environmental alternative energy company, and so they're the largest in Canada, and I think the third largest in North America. And so turbine monitoring, so not windmills, but turbines. If she was listening, she'd be proud of me for knowing that. But turbine flow monitoring. So how often, so if you've got a field of turbines and the wind's flowing one way, some of those turbines might be spinning more quickly, and some might be spinning lower. And as a result, there's potential maintenance that's got to go in to increase the effectiveness of each of those turbines, but also how can we modify the positioning of the turbines and all that stuff. That's all data. And the guys that are doing this type of stuff, they're sitting there with manual Excel spreadsheets trying to model this stuff. And it's amazing what's possible. Again, same thing in looking at HVAC and monitoring for repairs, financial services, loan processing. Now in the loan processing and the financial services, insurance, claims, all that stuff's going to be there. I'm going to layer on another thing that it's not here, but we need to layer on um, how is AI helping in processing time, in claims, in approvals or denials. What is AI doing? So you need to be very clear on those kind of things, how we're documenting that, because if we're making financial decisions or operational decisions on somebody's ability to get a loan or not based on an AI, then we kind of run into a little bit of a problem. And obviously there's been sales and customer service studies up the wazoo, and it was one of the first areas that people focused in on. And so these are areas, these 6 areas, and there's easily a dozen more. So go into your sector, go and create a prompt in ChatGPT to then go and use inside Perplexity to surface up all of these use cases for your clients' competitors, for your niche, for your industry, for your geography, and find out what's actually working and not working. Use that as a benchmark to then go and take to the prospects and clients. So I want to now look at this. So this is now looking, and again, how do we operationalize AI? Well, we can take it and look at these kind of models. So this is 20. This comes out of 26 different academic, consulting, or competitive analysis research documents. So I've got all the citations behind all of these numbers, because if we make bold claims, we need to be able to have the receipts to back it up. Okay. And so in the age of AI, trust is one of the most critical components that we have. And if we make bold claims without having the proof behind it, then we run the risk of losing credibility, and therefore it's AI, he made it up, doesn't matter, right? So why would we trust this person? And why would we trust AI inside our business? So please, whenever you're making these kind of claims and statements, make sure you can go back and source the exact articles and the exact information of where I'm getting the 260% improvement in conversion rates. Where am I getting the 70% claims in reduction of processing times and so on and so forth? Okay. So what's missing in this conversation? And I want you to be really clear. I want you to really kind of take this on. What's missing? There's no mention of Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. I'm not suggesting you use any of those tools. They're operational workflows. Use those tools to help you build it. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to break down a process. So how do we do that? How do we map an operational workflow? Maybe record it on your phone and then transcribe it. Maybe walk through on Zoom or something like that. Maybe do a loom of the project and take the transcript and have it break down and analyze where you can use AI for those workflows. But I don't care what tool you use for it, because they're all going to be better than manually doing it. Okay. Um, Again, I haven't talked about prompt engineering other than to say we're not using it anymore. I don't prompt engineer. I've now gone so much the other way. I'm now saying, please spend the next half hour prompting me one question at a time what I need to help you with. So I'm actually, I guess, human prompting. I don't know how to term that, but I'm actually having AI now prompt me to help me with the redesigning of the workflows. And so I want to just pause here and make a statement. Um, we are seeing so much in the area of coding and the impact that it's having on developers. Just saw something today, 60% of all college grads coming out in this spring that are in the computer programming world will not be able to find a job. First time in history it's ever been that low. Why? Because AI is doing their job. Okay. So so if we look at that as the canary in the coal mine, and we look at the spin-off of that, and we extrapolate that out into the other sectors within business, what is AI doing that they used to do? And a lot of that is scoping. A lot of that is documentation. A lot of it's process flow. And so if we look at that and we extrapolate that into other areas of the business, we can see a similar pattern is going to emerge. So what we want to do is we want to take those SOPs that a year ago we were all talking about, and now let's break those down and find out where can we inject AI to help us with that, to reduce processing, to increase accuracy, and so on and so forth, right? And again, when you're out talking to people, we want to stop using terms. It doesn't matter what the product is. AI will help us in this section. Well, what tool? Depends. Are we starting today or are we starting in 6 months? Because I don't know, right? We want to look at these operational bottlenecks. That's our carry. Where's the friction? Where is the challenge? What breaks down when somebody goes on vacation or calls in sick, right? Let's focus on the outcomes and what are we trying to do? And that is our job to help work with the clients and then identify where we can insert AI to help with that, right? So abstract language. Um, More and more people are learning about AI. It is now becoming just an accepted reality for most people, but they're overwhelmed with all of this transformational journeys and AI enabled workforces and all of those kind of things. Make it really simple. Make it as simple as walking or buying a car, and that you don't need to make sure you don't need to buy if you're going from walking to buying a car, then it doesn't matter if you buy a Honda Civic or a Ferrari, it's still better than walking. People get those analogies. They understand it because it's simple and it's non-confrontational to people. When we get all lingoed up and buzzword up, people really start to back down. And for those that don't know why they're scared, don't know why they're struggling with AI adoption, these buzzwords and these things start to jump in. Mohammed, I think was it a thumb or was it a hand up? Did you want to comment there?
It was a thumbs up.
Oh, it was a
Yeah, it's
thumbs
a
up.
thumb up. I like
Okay.
it.
Okay, cool. Good, good, good. Again, so the point being here is we want to focus on workflows and outcomes and operational impact. That's it. That is how we take AI can change the world and do all these amazing things. And it answers the question, okay, so what? Now what? Right? What is the workflow? What is the outcome? How do we do that? So we're going to go into a breakout. So how many do we have on here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, cool. All right, let's do two breakouts. So Alex, if you can get us ready, we're going to do this slide and then the next slide. The next slide will be the breakout. Okay,
Got it.
so when we look at the operational prioritization matrix, okay, I want you to take this and I intentionally took off all of our branding, okay? And I simplified it down because I want you to create your own version of this. All right? So use this as a foundation. Okay. Let's go and look at this process. All right. So let's use that example of this incident reporting that happens at the end of every shift across 100 people every day 365 days a year. Well, actually, yeah, technically, but let's just use 5 days a week. What is the impact of that? Okay. So is it time savings? Is it cost? Is it both? Is it risk? What is the overall impact? And then factor that. One being low, five being high. That's a five. Okay. Feasibility. How difficult is it going to be to implement this? Are we talking about sharing a prompt that everyone uses or sharing a workflow that everyone uses across the company? Or are we talking about ground up building an entire new infrastructure? Okay. Are we talking about teaching? Because here's a great one. A great operational tool would be to give everyone Claude Cowork and teach them how to build their own agentic workflows. Yeah, like I mean that would be awesome. But most everybody is not ready for that and is not mentally built that way because it takes an incredible shift in thinking. So is it feasible to do that? Probably one. This technology that we're building out, is it feasible for this company and their infrastructure and their maturity? It is. And just as an aside, I took Claude to go and analyze the project and I said, curious, what would it take every step if a human were to do the work? And now let's look at an AI enablement with Claude Cowork and subagents doing the work. 390 hours was the duration of the project of physical labor. We got it down to 90 hours. So we saved 300 hours, almost 75% of the project. So timeline was compressed, risk was compressed as a result. Therefore, the feasibility in their eyes went up. Is the data ready? Okay, so let's talk about the law firm example or the internal law team. If the data, meaning documents, contracts, appendices, emails, correspondence, all of that stuff, if it's all over the map and on servers and different areas, AI cannot touch it. And therefore, the data readiness is one. It's garbage. Okay. If the customer CRM data is not correct, data readiness isn't there. So again, we need to look at that. And then what's our exposure from a compliance perspective? Are we introducing, exposing the company to risk because we're using external or internal AI? What is there going to be operational impacts? For example, this system that we're building, when we cut over, is it going to be difficult for the people to pick up the new system or not? Right. So we need to build all of that stuff in and understand what happens, data privacy and potentially reputational impact. We have all drank the Kool-Aid and are wicked excited about AI. However, if the client base is not, if the client base or the customers of your client are afraid of their data being put into AI, what does that do to the company's reputation at large? So we need to be sensitive to all those things. And so we'll take 10, 20 operational examples, we'll rank them all, we'll come up and we'll say, okay, that one, those three are 20. There's a couple 17s, there's a few 12s, and there's a bunch that are below 10. And we'll come up with our score. And then we'll pick those three and we'll pick one. And that's how we decide how to go from all of the ideas in the world that everyone's got down to let's pick one and let's move forward with that. Okay. So impact save. So that's, I talked about that. So that's fine. All right. Okay. So we're going to have a breakout session here. So what I want to do, Alex is going to pop you into a group.
Yep.
What I want you to do is one person just jump up and say, I'm going to run this, and what I want you to do is I want you to choose a target vertical. So as we're thinking, just before we break into this, if you already have one, if you're already active, fantastic. If you're thinking about going into an area, think about what your vertical is. Then I want you to rapid fire operational workflows, okay? And then, kind of what do these do? Now, you're going to go away after this exercise, and this is what I want you to do for homework. And I want you to put this information. Alex, can we put it in the comments for the recording for this video? Is that what we can do?
Um, like
We'll figure that.
after the fact.
Yeah, yeah, after the fact. Like, when you post the
Yes.
recording, there's a comment section below, right?
Yes, if
Yeah,
you we'll work together after to you'll send me maybe the
perfect.
mock-up of what you want to say and then I'll send
Yeah,
it to
perfect.
everybody.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Okay. So what I want you to do is then take this and I want you to share your process in the group so we can all talk about it. Then pick one where there's a bottleneck, okay? And then figure out how do we break this down. So what I want you to do in your group is I want you to look at step one and step two. Rapid fire, let's go 5 minutes, okay, and then come back in. So if you could time box there, Alex, if you could kick everyone off into the groups. We're just going to choose a vertical and we're going to pick rapid fire 10 operational workflows, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about them.
Got it. All right.
See everyone on the other side.
All right. People are joining. Perfect. I'm gonna type these into a broadcast for everyone too.
Perfect. Okay. Alvin, you got to join your group. Hopefully, you haven't checked out or gone away. Cool.
What was step 4, Mark?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me go back one. Yeah, step 4 is to narrow down to 5 candidates.
Okay. So I sent that to them, and then let's see. Yes, great. One second. Excellent. So it's 48. So I'll do a 1-minute warning at 52.
You do 51 and then pull them back in.
Sure can.
Yeah. I just like to have the people don't know what the time is, so I just like to have people who
Mm-hmm.
go out and chat.
Yeah. And then yeah, because they get a 1-minute countdown and then it automatically closes the breakout room.
Yeah.
Can you just repeat for me real quick what you wanted me to put in the comments?
In the comments of the chat or in the comments of the recording?
The comments of the recording. Yep.
Yeah, just if people could go through workshop phase 1 and on their own for vertical, and then share their findings, share the results, so we can have a discussion around it.
And share their findings. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I am not the one who posts into Circle. So, what I'm going to do is when I let people know, I'm going to indicate that that is a request.
Sweet.
You're essentially, you want to kind of create a comment like discussion board.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Just wanted to
That's exactly it.
clarify.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Thanks for the better language there.
No, you're totally good. So, workshop phase 1. Share your findings.
Okay. All right. Where are we on time? I
We
lost
got
track.
1 minute before we're going to let them,
Cool.
before I'm going to close it up.
Sweet. Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm going to close the rooms. And so
Bring them
people
back.
will be coming back in 60 seconds. Yep.
Fantastic. Just gonna mute myself for a second.
Mhm.
Okay, is everyone coming back?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
I
Close. Oh,
accidentally
there
brought
they
myself
close.
back on accident.
That's okay, Irvin. How you doing?
How you doing, man?
Good, good, good. All right, everyone's coming back. I always find it kind of jolting when all of a sudden you're mid conversation with somebody and everyone gets sucked back out of the room. It's like, oh, okay, we'll finish that
Yes.
conversation off. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks so much. Looking for a volunteer to share what you guys came up with. So what vertical and what were some operational workflows that you discussed? Who wants to volunteer? Bueller?
Um,
Bueller?
I'll
Amy, please,
I'll go.
yes, do it.
Yeah. So 5 minutes was really fast, and
Wasn't it?
we just got to basically kind of figure out where everybody's vertical was, and then kind of discuss what an operational workflow looks like and what a bottleneck looks like in
Excellent.
terms of time and money based on what you just said, and then kind of um, we just got to the identifying part of it. And
Okay.
so we had Jenna, who's in financial services, and I worked in financial services too. And there's always that bottleneck between having talked to your prospect or your client and then getting all the things you talked about done out to the right people, get all those analysis done, get those things done and ready for that next follow-up. And
Hmm.
so those we identified for her would be areas that they could look at that could be automated after a prospect or a client call.
Could
We
we
had somebody
just real quick, Amy, just real quick, could we name two of those? Because for some of us, we may not know what those are. Could we name two of those?
name them.
Yeah,
Name
like two of
what?
those processes, two of those
Yeah,
things that you need to
so
collect.
it would be like for Jenna, it would be the analysis,
Hmm.
create the analysis, right? And
Right.
whatever they're
Yep.
using to create that analysis. And then create, and then after the analysis, it's maybe schedule the follow-up call.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for everyone for that. I know these things can be really quick. I'd love to do this in a 3-hour session than than 60 minutes, but I want you to kind of like be in that position of a little bit of uncertainty. I want you to deal with some pressure because we need to move quickly in a lot of things. So part of my exercise is to move these things through quickly. So here's what we're going to do. What I want you to do is I want you to take the work that you did in that group, and then I want you to now, we're not going to break out again today, but I want you to go and take that and work on that either on your own or find out, connect with somebody that was in your cohort, in your group, sorry, in your room, and meet up with them in the Chief AI Officer community and chat with them and maybe set a half-hour meeting to go through this. But basically, what you do now is you what I call brutal prioritization. It is you've just got to get wicked focused on this. So
Mhm.
let's score those use cases. As I mentioned, we're going to eliminate a bunch of them. We're going to keep a couple of them, and then we're going to write the job to be done statement. So one sentence. We're going to, as you'd said, Amy, for Jenna, we're going to enable the finance team to do the analysis by X AI capability to achieve a measurable outcome. Okay. And that really is the key point. That's the statement that we need to create. And then what we need to do is define in the bottom section, we need to define what those outcomes look like. We will save X hours. We will save this number. We will do this. And that will equate to, in the example that I shared, is 15 minutes a day times 100 people, or sorry, yeah, half 150, I can't remember what it was. times 100 people times 5 days a week times $20 an hour equals X. Okay, cool. So now we know that X is the savings, Y is the investment, and hopefully there's a delta, and therefore we can improve all of these things. Okay, so that really is kind of the exercise, and we'll have a way for you in and Lavina. We'll have that in the recording. I think it comes out tomorrow, maybe the day after, in the community, and you'll see that, and you'll be able to communicate and share that and have discussions, and I'll monitor that as well and answer any questions that you might have. So thanks for playing along with that. If it's not measurable, it's not real, right? Key thing, can't manage what you can't measure. This is really the key thing behind all of this. We need to understand where's the risk tolerance. So the first three are fine. We need to also understand what the risk tolerance is, and specifically around how do we manage the errors that are being produced, and how do we report that so that we can resolve that. So human in the loop says we still need to analyze the outputs, and if the outputs are wrong, then we need to go back up the process and fix the process, the AI that's creating those results. Yeah. Okay. And then so you're now designing portfolio. So I want you now to think about, we're not prompting. We're not using AI as a thought partner. Yes, we can still do all of that stuff, but now we're getting deeper. Now we're looking at meaningful value creation. So you need to start thinking about the workflows. We need to figure out which one we're going to use. So that's where that matrix comes in. I want you to take that matrix, use it as your own, add categories that are relevant and important to your clients and your methodology of working. I want you to model what that measurable value is in the 1, 2, 3. Ideally, if we can pick 10 and we can get down to 5 that are real, and then we can focus on 2 or 3, and then let your client choose what the path is that they want to move forward. Then we go through and we sequence the impact. See if you can break that out into easy, then get deeper, and then get deeper so that you've got a full level. Don't try and go big bang all at once. It's a great TV show and a wonderful theory of science, but operationally for businesses, big bang scares the hell out of most business owners that I know. So we want to really reduce risk. It means we're going to start with a smaller investment. And yeah, you're looking for the big $50,000, $100,000 gigs. But trust me when I say that if you start small and you build trust and you build authority, then you will get the rest of those. Okay. And so you're no longer an AI consultant. You are an AI portfolio workflow architect. And that really is the overall objective of what we're trying to do here. Okay. So just wanted to wrap that up. You got some homework for today. If anybody wants to stick around for questions, I'm happy, or we can drop them in chat, or you can hit me up in the community directly. Or at the end of session 2, we'll have a discussion. We can go there, but there ends the regular scheduled programming. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to stay a bit longer.
I have one if you're able to help me out right quick.
Absolutely, Arvin, please.
I have an opportunity tomorrow actually for a company, a bigger company, leisure and travel, and they are looking for a kind of person to take over their AI governance planning essentially. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to position this. They're very much looking for somebody who is on the technical side of things, but also somebody who's able to communicate and get the team on board. When I kind of asked them like where they are in terms of like their adoption, they said they're all pretty much on board, but they are kind of looking for someone to take the lead and kind of directing everybody. I'm just trying to figure out how would you approach this, or what is the best way to kind of navigate this kind of conversation.
Great question. Congratulations on the opportunity. That's really exciting. Please let us know how it all goes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So first of all, I just to understand, have you gone through the ChiefAIOfficer certification or not?
Yes, I went through it right when it first started. I don't know if there's been any updates to it. I've been about 2 years ago. I went through it like 20 when it first started. So there's probably a bunch of updates since then, but I have.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. I just want to know from a context perspective where you're at. From that perspective, when we go in and talk about governance to clients, we're really excited because that's one of the most important positions. So first of all, we have what we call basically an alignment discussion. And so what we want to understand is everybody at the same level? And what does that mean to everybody? It's an hour, it's 2 hour meeting, depending on kind of the team and what's going on. And what does AI governance mean to everybody? And so we go around the table and it's like, okay, when I say governance, what does that mean to you? And then we set expectations. Part of that's risk. And then we go and say, look, do you guys know who's using what AI in the company? Right? Because it's there. Like it's on a phone. One of my clients, they internally promoted a guy that thinks that um, bring your own AI is okay. And he's now the AI manager. And I got a phone call this morning, actually, ironically enough. Mark, he's kind of promoting stuff that you said we shouldn't be doing. Help. So what does governance mean, and how are they going to impact, make that mandatory reality? How do they police it, right? Because governance without policing is just a great idea.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing, and then understand what what's their vision of what it looks like. You're not going to accept their vision, but you're going to tailor your presentation and your follow up to their vision. I would I would go in and I'd have, much like we've done today, I wouldn't have like 50 slides. I'd have 3 slides, maybe 4 slides. This is what the risks are in the market. This is what governance looks like, or maybe what does governance mean to you? Then here's what governance means to me, and then find the delta. Where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity to educate them? And then if there's an IT person in the room, ask them if they've done any kind of analysis on traffic for all of the things that people aren't allowed to use. If they're in a Microsoft environment, talk to them about their structure. Do they
Mhm.
have Microsoft? Are they set up with SharePoint? Do they have Azure? Are their teams allowed to download files to their hard drive? All of those kind of things we need to understand because those are technical issues that we're dealing with,
Mhm.
and that goes against proper governance in a Microsoft forward environment. And then listen. I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing is listen, and then come back and say, okay, great. Let me get back to you with a suggested approach. Then go away and use your AI model of choice and use the community to talk. Hit me up, hit a couple other of the governance and privacy experts on the community, hit them up for some input, and then go back to them with a proposal. That would be my approach. If you're talking to them tomorrow, if you're talking to them, a couple weeks from now, then I would probably do a bit more homework and propose. But if you're meeting with them tomorrow, that'd be my approach.
No, yeah, I appreciate that so much. Yeah, I just talked to them this morning, and they're like, "Yeah, let's talk tomorrow." So kind of just trying to, it's
Sweet.
rushing, it's going fast, so trying to make sure I
It's
get all the
okay.
information I can.
Yeah, yeah. Record the conversation. Make sure you're doing that because that's part of governance. If they don't like it, then you should be using it, and then find out as much as you can, and then come back maybe between now and then. Ask anybody in the community if they've done something similar to this, and see what they've got for resources. And like hit me up on the community too if you're stuck and need kind of a little bit of one-on-one. I'm happy to jump on a call with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Mohammed, to my group, Mohammed. Oh, excellent. Cool. Awesome. Mohammed, thanks for stepping up and reaching out to everyone. That's great. Does anybody else have any questions or things that they'd like to discuss? No? Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up then. 2 weeks from now, we'll be in session 3. What I'd like to hopefully invite you or encourage you to do is don't wait till next week. If you've got time today, schedule in to go and look at the homework. Look at take those workflows. Look at your own business. Look at a client that you're working on. Look at your spouse or a friend's business and look at what some of those issues are and break some of those workflows down. All the front recommendations. Yeah, yeah, very, very true. It's in their documents and training. Um, Yeah, and so again, we've also, Chief AI Officer also has a lot of their stuff, and one of them is going to come and start with that AI use policy. That's going to be a starting point for governance. So yeah. Alrighty. Okay, everyone. Well, I'll see you in the community. I'll see you in 2 weeks. You're very welcome, Mohammed. And again, if anybody has any questions, just DM me or hit me up in the community. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank
Take
you,
care, everyone.
everybody. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate you
Thank you.
all. Stay
Thanks.
safe out
Okay.
there.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye for now.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you. Have a great day.